I had my son 8 years ago and I'd planned to breastfeed him for 6 months, if not beyond. As soon as he was born, he did latch on straight away. 2 hours later, he had another feed, and 2 hours later, he had another feed. I spent my first night in hospital and he was crying most of the night, so I was constantly feeding him, not knowing if I was giving him enough milk. Like, why is he crying all night? I'll keep on feeding him, I'll keep on feeding him. The midwife kept on saying, yeah, just feed him. And I was exhausted by the morning. I think that's the first time I realised that breastfeeding isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. That 2-hour routine that I thought I had wasn't even a thing, and I should have bought some nipple cream beforehand. Didn't realise that I would need it.
My first experience was really tough, actually, when I think about it. I was really keen, had very high expectations of myself, really wanted it to work, wanted to bond with my baby, and it just seemed like the most convenient on tap way of feeding your baby, and everyone tells you, breast is best.
Hi, my name's Caroline. I've got 2 little girls. Lily is 5 years old and I have Annie, who is 3 months old. I've breastfed both my babies. Annie, I'm currently breastfeeding. Lily, I breastfed until she was 13 months. Lily took to it. She took a little bit of getting used to. Probably about day 10, she really got it, which was quite hard, but I was really quite determined.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm Creative Production Manager for Mothercare. I wanted to share with you my breastfeeding experience. I think before I gave birth, I assumed that breastfeeding was going to be really easy. I planned to breastfeed for 6 months, maybe longer, see how it went. But I had no idea actually how tough it was going to be. And I didn't really have another option. I thought I was breastfeeding and that was it. And then the reality happened when I gave birth. I had a C-section. I really struggled to feed my baby. I had quite a lot of advice from different midwives on how to feed. They would try and place my baby on my body in different ways, and I just felt really pressured and also really frustrated that I couldn't actually feed her.
When I got home and I was breastfeeding him, I still struggled. It took an hour and a half to feed him. I didn't know whether I was producing enough milk, because, certain family members do end up making comments like, oh, maybe you're not producing enough milk. That's probably why he's taking so long, and it's not what you want to hear as a new mum.
We stayed in the hospital for around 5 days just to make sure that she was being fed properly and that I was okay. I think I suffered actually from postnatal depression, and I think that made it tougher because you obviously, you feel guilty, you beat yourself up about this feeling that you can't do something, and I suppose more so when your emotions are everywhere. And then unfortunately I got an infection, ended up back in hospital, and the feeding was just out of the window really. So we ended up bottle feeding, which I felt very guilty about, and I think that's partly my feeling, but also how I was made to feel by other mums, and unfortunately I would say family members, and just that whole breast is best, breast milk is the only thing you can feed your baby. There was a lot of that stigma around it at the time, and makes you feel even worse when you can't do it. But I do remember having a conversation with a midwife who had come over to check on me after the C-section infection had cleared up and I was back at home, and she said to me, a happy mum is the making of a happy baby, and whatever you need to do to feed your baby that makes you happy and your baby's fed and your baby's happy, then you do it. And from there I did bottle feed. That was my experience around it all, and I still, unfortunately, I still feel guilty, even today, that I didn't breastfeed. And I think that's what's tough, is there are a lot of mums out there that can't breastfeed, or it just hasn't worked for them, and you do feel guilty. But I also understand that even if you breastfeed, there's this whole area of you're made to feel bad if you're breastfeeding in public. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a really tough one, whether you've breastfed or you haven't.